Good afternoon to all the viewers and welcome back to ICCA Live, World-Class Culinary Online. Today we have the second session in the series of webinars on contemporary desserts, and it is on the topic of the Melodie Marron. I will now hand over to our host, Shahnaz Raja, Director of Courses at the ICCA Dubai. Over to you, Shahnaz.
Thank you, Karun. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Contemporary Desserts by Chef Sabeen Farid from our Faculty of Bakery and Patisserie here at the ICCA in Dubai. I love to say in Dubai because I love Dubai. I gave you an extensive intro on Sabeen for her first webinar. So this time, once again, I would like to make a special mention about her undying passion for food that has motivated her to have 14 components on her plate. But with much pressure, she has now brought it down to 5. And anyways, we'll keep count as she goes. If you are here for the first time, get ready to see some fancy ingredients and even more fancy equipment being used. When I asked Sabeen a few questions that viewers would be likely to ask, she had only one answer, and that was, tell them to come to ICCA. So before you ask any questions, I've told you the answer she has prepared for you. And now, without holding you up any longer, over to you, Sabeen.
Thank you, Ms. Shahnaz, for this introduction, and thank you for preparing our viewers for what's coming in the end. Welcome back to our series of contemporary desserts, where we are doing a plated dessert today. So what exactly is a plated dessert? Plated dessert is where individually composed components are then plated in one plate or in a bowl or in any interesting platter that you may choose to plate your dessert in. Our dessert today is called the Melodie Marron, or the Chestnut Symphony, because we're using some chestnut in our dessert, and we're using it in various forms, as a puree, as a chestnut paste, as a chestnut cream. We're using some candied chestnut, some powdered chestnut, and so on and so forth. We will have 5 different components today, out of which we are showing 3. And the other 2 will be quick ones, but the recipes of all will be shared with you during the webinar. So without wasting much time, let's start with our first component, the chestnut gelato. We have over here our prepared custard. This is a milk custard. We have just heated up some milk and we have poured it over our egg yolk and sugar. And then we've heated the mixture again and we've brought it to 83 degrees to make a creme anglaise or a custard. And to this now, hot custard, I will add some chestnut paste, some candied chestnuts, and some orange zest. This brings out the flavor very well. I will just mix this well to combine, and then I'll be ready for churning. We have one ready, which we prepared yesterday. I'm sorry, we will have to let this rest overnight, and then we'll churn this the next day. And I've prepared one before, which is ready. And now we are going to get ready to churn this. This is the mixture that I've prepared before, like about yesterday, to rest overnight. Now we have some candied chestnut in there, which we can either blend with an immersion blender, fine. But if we want chunks in it, we can leave it as it is. So we'll put it in our holder of our gelato machine, which we use in our artisan gelato courses. It can hold small capacity, and our gelato will be ready in about 5 minutes. Chestnut paste and candied chestnuts, which are being used in the recipe here, are easily available online. If you're residing in Dubai, you can even get it in hypermarkets and pastry supply shops, as well as online. So Shri will just add our freezer, our canister, into the gelato machine. And we are ready to churn our gelato. All right. Now, if you're interested in egg-free gelato, then you would simply do a custard which is not egg-based. You would heat up your milk and then you would sweeten it as per indicated in this recipe or as per your taste, and then you would just thicken this mixture with corn flour, a corn flour slurry. And once you achieve this custard, you will then do the same steps. You will add in the chestnut paste, the chestnut puree, the chestnut paste and the candied chestnuts and the orange zest, and then you're good to go. You will keep this mixture overnight, and then you can churn it in any ice cream maker that you would have at home. In case you do not have an ice cream maker, you can just pour this mixture in an airtight container, and then you can add it to the freezer. And after every 1 hour, you would keep mixing the mixture so that the ice crystals do not form, and you have a smooth and creamy product. You would repeatedly do this every 3 hours, and then let it freeze overnight, and you will be good to go. If all else fails, you can just buy ready-made ice cream, and the flavors that would complement this dessert would be a chocolate ice cream or a praline flavor or raspberry, and you will see us using these elements towards the end as extra garnishes in our dessert. So whilst our gelato is happening, we will just share a few things about the evolution of desserts. The innovation and the modernity in plated desserts is something very recent. It has started in about the 60s, and it's moved down to 80s and 90s by nouvelle cuisine chefs like Paul Bocuse and others. And presentation has been an important aspect of desserts, especially in restaurants and in hotels. The elements of luxury were started to being added up in the 90s, around the 90s. There would be like gold leaf adorned cakes, and then chocolate garnishes were molded, fruit coulis with creme anglaise topped on each other were streaked with skewers. Symmetry was an important part of plated desserts. Squeeze bottles came into play, where they would be dotted or crossed on plates. High-end restaurants in the mid-90s started concentrating on architectural artistry. They would call it tall food, where they would give height to a plate. In the 90s, we also saw flexible molds come into play, where the pastry chefs could use these molds and shape their desserts into various kinds to their whims and fancies. Then came the mid-90s, where desserts garnished with other desserts became popular. And we saw gelatos, ice creams, ices, granitas, all were being used here. Then by the 21st century, there were shifting fads to deconstructed desserts. And in the second decade of the 21st century, naturalist aesthetics came into play, where soil, snow, rocks, microwave sponges, foams came into play. So throughout their decades of evolution, plated desserts have remained a reflection of their time. So our gelato is not ready yet, Shri?
Yeah, it's almost there.
Okay, it's almost there. So we'll start off with our second component, which is the chestnut torta or the chestnut cake. I forgot to mention before that we are concentrating a little on Italian specialties today. And as you see, we've done the gelato, and we have the chestnut torta, which is also an Italian specialty. It is a rich and a heavy cake, usually made at occasions, at important occasions basically. So it's fairly simple. We have over here our creamed butter and sugar. It's a creaming method cake. And we will beat in some egg yolk and some chestnut puree. So as you have seen, we've used the chestnut paste in the gelato, and now we are using chestnut puree. All of these are made differently. They have different textures and flavors, and they have different purposes. So I'm going to add in our egg yolk. I'll add it in alternate additions. Sorry, I apologize for the noise. I'll add it in alternate additions with the puree. So our gelato is ready now, and Shri has run out for something for the egg whites. No, it needs a little more time, sorry. So now I'm going to just go on to adding the puree. I'm going to add the puree and the egg yolk in alternate additions. At this point, you might see that the mixture looks a little split. But that's okay, because you're going to shortly fold in the flour as well. And now I'm going to just fold in my flour. Once the flour is folded in, I will just add in the aerated egg whites, as in the whipped egg whites. Now we don't have any baking powder or any baking soda or any chemical leavening agent over here. So the rise will only come from this egg whites, which we'll just fold in. Soak it and then start it again. Yeah. So our flour is folded in, and I'm just going to add in our egg whites. I'll fold 1/3 of the mixture first so that it's well blended in, and then I'm going to add in our remaining egg white. Once the batter is done, we will bake it in the ring, which is 10 centimeters, about 10 centimeters in diameter, and we'll bake it at 170 for 8 to 10 minutes. We have a sample which we had done before, and what we are going to do, what we are going to use in our assembly today. So without knocking much air, we will fold all the egg white in. All right. Once done, we will pour it into our ring, and we'll show you the sample. This is what we are going to use at the end. We've used the 10 centimeter ring. You can even use 8 centimeters, and we've baked our cake in this ring. And this is what we're going to use for the assembly. Where did our gelato reach? It's done. Okay. Wow. 5 minutes, and this is ready for service now. So what we would do in a restaurant is that once the gelato is ready, it can go on the plate for service. Okay, it's a soft serve. How is it? Yeah, it's good. All right. So we'll just remove this. Oh. It's a small portion. It's mainly for restaurant catering. And we'll just remove this and we'll put it into our freezer. We have made another batch yesterday, and we have molded this gelato into a chestnut shape to complement our dessert. So we'll just show you that in a while. So we finished our first two components. Are there any questions, Ms. Shanas, on the first two that we've completed?
Nothing for now, Sabeen, but probably you can tell them if they don't have chestnut, what other nut or what could they use, what other puree they could use.
Yes, so if you don't have chestnut, chestnut is actually used as a fruit puree rather than a nut puree in this dessert. And we could use a fibrous fruit like a custard apple puree, which is again easily available in hypermarkets in this recipe. Chestnuts are generally easily available in Dubai, and we can prepare these purees and pastes and creams at home as well. They have fairly easy recipes. You boil the chestnuts, and then for a puree you would mix it with, you would boil it with the water and sugar and vanilla, and you would achieve that consistency. So, but other than that, any fibrous fruit like a custard apple would work for the cake.
Thank you, Sabeen. You can go ahead.
All right, Shanas. Okay, so let's start with our third component, which is our chestnut foam. Now, as we spoke a little earlier about the evolution of desserts, foams are a reflection of modernity on the dessert plates. And what it does is that any liquid can be made into a foam. It can be a fatty liquid or it can be a non-fat liquid. We are working with cream today, and we're making a chestnut foam. We are mixing it with some chestnut puree. We have already prepared this. This is nothing but whipping cream, chestnut puree, and chestnut cream, and chestnut paste. So in the previous components, you have seen us, I'll show it in this camera. It is just cream, chestnut cream, that's your whipping cream, chestnut cream, and chestnut paste, just mix together with a spoon until well combined. You're not aerating this mixture at all right now. We don't want to thicken this mixture. I would like to point out for this that this is the third kind of element of chestnut that we're using, a chestnut cream. Previously we've used chestnut paste, then chestnut puree, and now the chestnut cream. So coming back to foams, any liquid can be made into a foam. What it does, a foam, it makes your mixture very airy and very light and very beautiful on your palate when you're having it with other components. Foam can be made in many ways, and what we are using for our foam today is our siphon canister. I'm just going to pour my mixture into the body. For this size of a canister, I should have 500 ml of my cream. So the recipe given to you is enough for such. Now this equipment basically is available in home appliance stores, and online, of course, it is easily available. Now the way to go about this is to close it. And then you charge it with a cartridge. This mini tube out here has 8 grams of nitrous oxide, which will insert gas into this cream mixture. Sorry. I put it in this cavity and then I fasten it at this point. So now I'm going to press it tight and I can hear the gas being released into the canister. Once the gas is released, I have to shake it vigorously. So Shri will help me with that. Why do we shake? Is that so that the gas gets mixed well within the whole mixture. And then we will get a foam-like structure, which will be very airy and light. So this is what we are going to use on our plate. We'll reserve it till the assembly, and it's best done just before use. And we'll shake it once more before assembly. So what we see over here is that the canister has completely frosted. It has become completely cold because of the mixture as well as the nitrous oxide which has been released. Okay. We'll shake a little vigorously later on. Okay. Did you? Yes, vigorously.
Yes.
Done. Okay, so we are done with our chestnut foam. We'll speak about our next 2 components, which is our orange chocolate crumble. It's a fairly easy recipe. We'll cream our butter and sugar, and then we'll just fold in our dry ingredients, and then we'll form a dough. We'll form the dough into a slab, and then we'll chill this mixture. What we have done today is that we have poured about we have added 30 grams of the mix of this dough to our ring, and we have formed a disc, and we've baked it, and we're going to use it in our assembly. So this will bake at about 160 degrees for just about 6 to 8 minutes. And we are good to go. Alternatively, in your desserts, when your dough is chilled, you can grate this with a grater and use it as a crumble on your plated desserts. And we have a sample to show you of that. So it would resemble like this. So we can use it even in combination in our assembly. Okay. Ms. Shanaz, do we have any questions or we are good to go?
You have a question. Okay, so
Yes,
the
Mr.
question is from Amna. She wants to know what is an alternate to foam, and also you can tell them the difference between using whipped cream and actually getting a foam out of a siphon.
All right. So alternative to foam. Okay. Now foam is something that has a characteristic of its own. As I was saying, that it will be a very light and an airy mixture. Foam can be achieved in various different ways. So we have something known as lecithin, which we can create a foam with as well. It's a product available online where you would heat up your, let's say, fat-based mixture like a cream, for example, and then you will mix it with this lecithin powder, about a half teaspoon or so, and that way you will achieve and then you will blend it, so you will achieve a bubble-like foam. This will be like a shaving foam. The one that we've done now will be a shaving foam kind like a foam. But the characteristic is that it is very light and airy, so it does not have any replacement as such. If you're going to use whipped cream instead, you can to maybe use it to hold your other garnishes in place by using the whipped cream, but it will not give that appeal to your palate as of the foam. It will be denser, it will be heavy, it won't be as airy as your foam. So is that good, Ms. Shanaz?
Yes, good, Sabeen. Thank you.
Okay. So let's move on to talking about our raspberry dressing, which is an important component of our dessert, or any dessert for that matter. Sauces are a very important component of plated desserts. We are using a raspberry dressing where we are simply going to heat up our puree. Why raspberry in this case? Because it complements chestnut well. All berry flavors complement chestnut well. And we are just going to heat up this puree, sweeten it, and then thicken it with corn flour, and we are ready with this sauce. So that basically summarizes or completes the components that we'll be presenting to you today. I think it's time for a poll, and then we'll be ready for the assembly of our dessert, which will take a little bit of time. Ms. Shanaz, is the poll on?
Yes, I put on the poll. Okay, and the poll is the main characteristics of a plated dessert are.
Yes. So do we have any answers coming in? Okay.
Yeah, they're working on it. Can you see the screen, Sabeen? Can you see that?
Yes, I can see the screen, Ms. Shanaz. Yes, textural contrast, flavor balance, height and color. So we're just waiting for the answers. We are interested in knowing what the viewers think.
Okay, so majority of them do think all of the above. So now you can educate.
Yes, so we are going to go ahead with the assembly of our dessert. I might concentrate on the assembly of the plate. And yes, the answer is correct. It is all of the above. And we will show you all of the above now.
Sabeen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Today we've gone through the last 5 components very quickly. So as you plate them, you talk about each one again, so people know, they go back to what you did to get them.
Yes.
And,
sure.
And the chocolate crumble, once again, you can describe what you did there. Yeah?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. You might see me talking in between. There'll be a bit of silence because I'll be concentrating. But I'll keep talking in between and informing what I'm doing at various stages. Okay. I'm going to start with dusting my plate. You have some edible dust over here. This is a pink luster dust. I'm just going to randomly shimmer my plate, just for an appeal. Then I'm just using some hazelnut praline paste. If you would, those of you who would have joined us last time would have seen that we worked with almond praline, and it is 50% caramelized sugar and 50% almonds. So this is the same. It's hazelnut praline. This complements chestnut. It's available online. I'm just using it a little on the base, just using it to secure my crumble disc so that when the dessert is transported, it does not shift. It holds its place. So this is the crumble which we have done as our fourth component. We have simply just creamed butter and sugar, and we've added orange zest to it. And then we've added dry ingredients like cocoa powder and flour. And we've assembled the dough. We will not overwork the dough so that the crumble is flaky and not tough. And then we baked it. So either you can press it down on the base of a ring and you can bake it, or if you like it like a crumble, then you can form your slab of dough. You can see the slab again, Shri? Yeah. You can bring your dough together, form it into a slab, chill it for a while, and then you can grate it with a box grater or a microplane, and you can achieve this, and then you can bake this off for 6 to 8 minutes in your oven at 160. So you will be able to use that as well. And then the leftover can be easily frozen and can be used at any later point in time. So I've secured my disc of the crumble, and then I will top it up with my chestnut torta. At this point as well, I can use some hazelnut praline. To adhere my torta to the crumble. Okay. So the torta, as I said, we have just creamed some butter and sugar, and then we have added some eggs and chestnut puree in alternate additions. We folded in the flour and the salt, and then we've added whipped egg whites, which is the only airing agent in the recipe. I'm dusting the torta with some more of the dust. And this is some gold dust as well. All right. Now I will go about decorating with various garnishes, and I'll keep talking about what I'm doing. Chestnut foam, we'll give it a shake again. And I would like Shri to also give it a vigorous shake. Vigorous shake. Show your power. Just sample it. We have a baking paper sheet. This entire, yeah. What I'm using now is some chestnut powder. Instead of cocoa powder, we're using some chestnut powder on the dessert. Chestnut powder is chestnut cream and chestnut paste, which is mixed together in equal quantities, and then it is spread on a thin sheet, a very thin sheet, on your sill mat, and it's baked at 180 for 5 minutes, and then you get shards, and then that's just powder. This is just mixed with some luster dust. I'm going to place some roasted chestnuts dusted with cream, some candied chestnut. Sri, would you be able to get our frozen molds? Yeah. We didn't show our chestnut mold. I'll show it. We have some dehydrated rose petals. We have some chestnut chips. Chestnut chips are roasted chips. Roasted chestnut, which have been just dipped in a simple sugar syrup and baked off at 180 to become crisp like chips. I'll show it in a while. This is our chestnut gelato that we've sprayed with cocoa butter. It has been shaped. It has been molded. The ice cream has been molded in the shape of a chestnut, and then it is sprayed with chocolate cocoa butter spray, which we'll talk about more in our next webinar. Show the chestnut mold. This is our chestnut mold, which we've used, a flexible mold, which we've used to mold our ice cream in. We're using some wafers, crispy wafers, which we prepared in-house, which would complement an ice cream structure. This is chocolate gelato, which we made ahead. And because of the constraints of time, we can't share the recipe in this webinar. All these flavors will complement the dessert and hence are being used. We are also using some raspberry gelato as a complementary element. Some pre-prepped tempered chocolate garnishes. I'm going to use my raspberry sauce now. We have some bowls as start here, right? Pour it into the glass so that I can just dip it in the this is just to give some height to our dessert. Red tempered chocolate, dusted with gold. Just dipping some raspberry and some gold dust. Raspberry sauce. Some raspberry sauce. I'm just concentrating, so I won't be talking a lot at this point. I'll just be adding elements here and there. candied chestnut. All the products are easily available online. Chocolate crumble, the crumble, we use that as well. You can hand that to me with a spoon. You can put anything. Just adding a bit of color on the plate with dehydrated petals. These are candy dehydrated petals. Some are candied, some are. Oops. So ice cream is melting now. I think I better stop now. And we are good to go. Get me the other one as well. The other ice cream as well. We have two of raspberry, right? Is this clear, boys? Yeah. It's gone. We left it outside. Okay. So that brings us end to our webinar. And please let us know if you have any questions regarding the components that you've learned today, and we get back to you. Over to you, Ms. Shanaz.
Recipe sheet that we sent you and the picture that is on it, you will see how hard we worked on Sabeen, but we couldn't keep all the extras off. Anyway, thank you everyone for taking the time for being with us, and hope these sessions inspire the creativity within you. See you on Wednesday with Chef Sergio, who is yet playing Explorer. Same time, same place. Thank you.
Sorry, it's good. Boys, what happened?
Sabeen? Sabeen?
How do I clear this clip? What?
Wow. Staring at this dessert, I forgot to come in place, Chef Sabeen. This particular dessert is just mouth-watering, and guys, behind the scenes, I'm keeping my eyes on it, so not for you. And for those who have missed out on the complete action, an email will soon follow with the replay video of this webinar together with the handouts as well. Lastly, we encourage you to recreate this dessert and share them on your social media platforms, and we look forward to seeing you in the next session. Until then, goodbye from all of us here.